is president of Down Syndrome Ireland, and he's on the line with me now. You're very welcome, Gerard, to the programme.
Good evening, Cormac.
What are the stereotypes that are perpetuated for people with Down syndrome, in your opinion?
I suppose if we think about stereotypes of people with disability in general, they tend to be reductionist, focusing on needs. And while we all have needs, nobody wants to be defined totally or solely by their needs. Mm-hmm. I suppose dependency would be another stereotype. There would be expectations associated with the stereotype as well, that people, are not capable of working or of being financially independent, or of maybe needing a certain level of independent lives. So they're just some of them.
Yeah. What are the impact of all of those, do you think?
Well, on a personal level, I think they can be quite damaging to people's self-confidence, people's self-esteem. Like any of us, if we tend to live up to expectations or live down to them. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, they're almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't expect me to do something, I won't do it. Or the assumption is I can't to do it. Yeah. And I suppose from a societal perspective, society is not benefiting from the potential of these people.
It's interesting the way you describe that, Gerard, because when you say the stereotypes that are reductionist and that they're dependent, let's say, it's society-wide almost, is it? It's very hard to break those stereotypes down, isn't it?
It is, and I mean, they've, some of them are created, I suppose we've created them by society as well, and some of them for good reason. A lot of the support, if you go back in history, a lot of people with disabilities were not included at all, or they were hidden away, and then we started, providing services, but the services tend to become specialised and often tend to take a life of their own, and that creates a kind of a bubble or a parallel world in a sense. So I suppose we're moving on from that now and saying that, we all have needs, but we all have abilities, we all have desires, we all have dreams, and that we're looking at the opportunities and the abilities as well as the disabilities.
And what are the employment opportunities like for people with Down syndrome?
They're improving, and they're improving significantly. I would say 10 or 20 years ago, it would have been unusual to find people with Down syndrome in employment. Mm-hmm. Down Syndrome Ireland has launched a national employment programme in conjunction with employers. This is a kind of a joint effort. So we work with employers, we provide training and support for the employers, and then training and support for the employees, the people with Down syndrome. And it's been quite successful. So there's probably well over 100 people now on that programme who are working in various sectors. And the feedback has been very positive and very rewarding. And also it creates visibility, and other employers see it. The fellow employees are happy. The public obviously is happy. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. And in an economy which is pretty full in terms of employment, I think we need to be looking at all options in terms of, who does jobs.
Yeah. And I suppose that goes back, Gerald, to the whole, if you can see it, you can be it, mantra that is so important. I know you have a son with Down syndrome. Can you tell us a little bit about him? What's his name and what's his experience been?
Yeah, I have a 23-year-old son, Jan. He's currently, he's doing a lot of things. He's doing a program in MTU in the Tralee campus in Kerry, a 2-day-a-week program in higher education, and that focuses on information technology, communications, culinary skills, and there's an advocacy element of it as well. And then another day he volunteers in a local charity shop, 321 shop in Tralee. And he also works 1 day a week in Muckers Park Hotel, which is in Killarney. So he's got different activities, different weeks. But I suppose the longer term plan would be that he gets a more sustainable, doesn't have to be a full-time 9-to-5 job, because not everybody wants that. Yeah. But it would be a regular job, let's call it.
And have you seen things change for him over the last 20 years and how people perceive him and how people talk to him and treat him, or has he noticed that?
I've noticed it. I'm not sure if he has. He probably has as well. In that, there wasn't necessarily an expectation when he started school that he would, go through school, but he did. And we supported him along the way. And it's very much, rather than looking too far ahead, it's looking at the next step. So, preschool to primary to secondary, then on to further education, on to higher education. And it's very individualized. I think I'm not saying everybody should do this. We're all different, and some people, it may not be the path for them. But what we're looking at today, I suppose, is opportunities and possibilities. Options essentially for people, so that we're not sending everybody down the same route.
Sure. And speaking of that, actually, and the possibilities and opportunities that there are, we all saw actor James Martin, who did us all proud in An Irish Goodbye, as part. He was part of the film that won the Oscar. So seeing that, how important is that? Again, I suppose back to the visibility of people with Down syndrome on the world stage, doing great things.
Oh yeah, it's very powerful. People with Down syndrome are extremely visual. They're visual learners, a lot better than I would be. So when they see something, it means something, and the visibility there I think for the whole community of people with intellectual disabilities, not just Down syndrome, that's very powerful. I think it's also powerful for the rest of society to see what people can do, and you don't have to be a Oscar-winning actor to be a kind of a role model.
Not all of us can be a James Martin, which is very true. Can I ask you very finally and briefly, Gerard, about what the government could do or improve to recognise and support people with Down syndrome?
Yeah, the government are doing a lot. We are often very critical of government, and government is dependent on society. And society, changes in society can be obviously strengthened by government policy, but also can influence it. So I suppose some of the things that government can do is maybe looking at, looking at mainstreaming more programs. So for example, I spoke of the program that Jan is doing. Now all higher education institutions in the country have the opportunity of providing programs for people with intellectual disabilities. Now, that was an initiative brought in by Simon Harris, and it's a very welcome initiative because you have people on campus mixing with their similar aged peers doing a study program which is going to be recognised. Okay, so that's one way.
So more of that then, more mainstreaming.
More of that,
of those
but
programs.
Also more supports for people who are, the population of people with Down syndrome is very varied. So some people have significant medical and other needs, which can be catered for mostly in the home, but the home needs the support rather than putting supports always into institutions.
Okay. Can I thank you very much indeed, Gerard, for joining us on the programme. That's Gerard O'Carroll, President of Down Syndrome Ireland.